Hey, Wim, thanks for joining us today. As a way of getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Hey, Brian, nice to meet you. Thanks for inviting me. My name is Wim. I live in Belgium, and I'm in sales for software sales actually for 25 years. Started my career in IT security, uh, still a very hot market, as you know, and then moved on to call center software. And then now for almost a decade into PDF technology, e-signing, with Foxit, one of the market leaders in that domain. The last 15 years, I guess, have been in sales management and currently acting as a VP sales for the EMEA region. That's Europe, Middle East, and Africa, Brian.
Yeah. And why sales for you?
Well, I think, it's in your genes to some extent. My father always has been in sales, representing pharmaceutical companies. So that's one part. And secondly, I think I'm a bit of an entertainer. So if you combine those two, you quickly end up in a sales role. But, let me tell you a story. I think that answers the question very well. When I was many, many moons ago young, I was in school, and a friend of mine was selling Christmas trees, during Christmas. That's where it makes sense, obviously, at a supermarket. And he asked me if I could help. So we would buy a lot of 500 or 1,000, I don't remember, Christmas trees. And then the job was go sell it. Right? So we paid a lump sum, and then we prayed and hoped that around the 25th, 5 p.m., December, everything was sold and we would have a profit. So well, I joined and doing that, Brian, I said, "Oh, so what price do we sell this?" And he said, "I don't know. Just sell it." Oh, cool, right? So you can imagine we had big Christmas trees, small Christmas trees, ugly Christmas trees. And then we had customers, and they would be the ones that shop in the supermarket, and they arrive at the parking lot with their BMW, or sometimes, with an old-fashioned car. You show that they had no money. Sometimes it were old ladies, and you just would try to sell it. And the same Christmas tree at one point for one individual, we could sell at 10 euros, and the other one, the same Christmas tree, we would sell it at 50 euros because the customer would have the money and could afford it. And I found it so funny that, by just understanding who the individual is based on what he has in his shopping cart and the car he drives, that you could influence the price and of the same product and still sell it. So I found it so exciting. I was 15 years old or so. And I think, from that point on, I said, yeah, sales, that's what I want to do the rest of my life. I hope that answers the question, Ryan.
Well, yeah, it brought back some memories for me as well. I never sold Christmas trees, but I was kind of the paper route type of guy that then mowed lawns, shoveled snow, raked leaves, kind of do whatever people needed for cash. And what it meant to me was kind of independence. What did it mean to you?
For me, at a certain extent, it was independence, but it also gave me room, to do my thing, right? And that ties into independence, to be flexible in what I wanted to do. I've never been a 9-to-5 guy, neither. During my career, I've been a consultant also, but it gives me some room to also improve my personal life. I don't come from a very rich family. Had to do it all of myself, and to that respect, I always had to work. And I found sales. Maybe you agree with it. I found it the quickest route, to financial security, if you wish, because actually you have the opportunity every day, and not everyone realizes every day you have the opportunity to sell. And basically, when I was preparing for this interview, I was thinking about it, Brian. I think everyone is a sales individual, right? Some people don't agree with me on that respect, but I honestly believe that every individual on this planet is a salesperson. And I'll tell you why. If you follow the politics, for instance, and you know that Liz Truss now is the new Prime Minister of Great Britain, well, she's a sales individual because she sold, a decrease of tax to the people of Great Britain and probably many more things. So she's a salesperson. If I don't know if you have children, but I have two pieces of them, and I had to
two parts.
I had to sell
two units.
To them, yeah, 2 units. I had to sell to them every single day of their childhood. Right? Don't do this, do that, behave like this. Even when they're a baby, they cried, Brian. They cried like hell, and that's asking for attention. So, you're selling every time, every single minute of the day. Every one of us is selling, and the ones that really like it, they probably have a career in sales. I'm selling to my wife, and my wife is selling to me. Like, hey, this is a beautiful thing. What do you think about it? She's trying to sell when we go shopping every single day, so I can buy it. So. And she's in the pharmaceutical industry, so she has no sales career. So I strongly believe that every individual has a capability and the power to sell. And if you can, uncover that, it might help you with what we just said, to become financially independent. Yeah.
And when you get into business to business sales, how long did it take before you became good at it, or was it just a natural?
Oh, I'm not good at it. I'm still learning every single day.
Well, someone thinks you're good at it. You got recommended for the show.
No, I think the question when is I think it happened 15 years ago, when I finally found out that all of the sales courses I'd followed by then didn't matter. Like, as in, oh, Wim, we're gonna bring you on a medic training or a disc training, or you have to be mentor, all that sort of things. And Brian, it didn't work out in B2B, for me at least not. And then I'm very honest about it. And I think I picked up some pieces, and I figured out that it is the same content most of the times, but a different name. And I became good at it. And believe me or not, when I started to understand that selling is not what it is about. It is about buying. It is about understanding what the buyer thinks. So actually, this has learned me that for me, it's more interesting to read about how buyers think than how sellers think. Because if I can understand what a buyer thinks in his mind, what he looks for, and all that sort, his insecurity, his uncertainty, I think that was the point that I became better at selling into B2B.
Yeah. And a lot of people still don't get it.
Yeah.
They look at the things like the checklist, like MedPick or personality types. It's interesting elements of a sale, but it's not why they buy. And how did you develop that empathy? Because putting yourself in their position and asking yourself, well, why would they make a change? Or what's really in their way of making the change?
Well, I don't think there's a moment that happens. I think that's a certain process. You also have to have a passion and have a passion for people, because empathy, obviously, in my eyes, is strongly people related. Yeah. And what I found out is that, my experience in talking to buyers, Brian, is that most of these people are, in most cases, uncertain. And the individual I am, and that would be an advice. The individual I am is, as I said, it's entertaining, it's being helpful, it's being supportive. And there have been a few moments in my career that I really dared to ask the question to certain of these, well, we say buyers, but obviously it's more complex. In B2B, we're confronted with DMUs, with different buyers that have, different latent or active pains. In most cases today, latent pains, unfortunately. But what I figured out is that at a certain point in time, I said, can you talk to me how difficult it is for yourself in a large organization, and it was in the context of a large deal, how difficult it is for yourself to buy a pencil in your company? And the guy went like, oh, Wim, that's a very good question. It is extremely difficult. Honestly, I don't know how to do it. And I said, well, if you don't know how to do it, how do you believe you're gonna buy our solution, which is probably 1,000,000 pencils worth, and has a a very complex approach, and very different decision makers, and you need to lead that in your organization. So what do you think about that? They say, well, I don't know. Do you know? I say, yeah, I know. I can help you with that. It's no problem. Oh, really? That would be wonderful. And I think that's by doing it for the first time, and now for the 100th time and more, you start to get into that mindset of understanding how difficult it is for people to really buy, and that's the world and the market we're in. And I found that in my team today, individuals that get that and that dare to ask the question, it's not easy, and get into the mindset of a buyer are more successful than the ones that don't, right?
Yeah.
Because we're so, as I said, we're so into that rhythm of, oh, I need to do this first and that second, that we forget that there's a human being on the other side who wants something from us, and that is not a better price, that is probably not the best product, that is a relationship, an individual that helps him to be successful in what he needs to do in his organization.
Yeah. And I always get a good chuckle when I see like the buyer's journey. Well, the buyer's got a problem. They don't know how to solve it. Is it a journey, or is it the blind leading the blind, where the sales rep really doesn't know how to guide them and they don't know how to buy the pencil? Because
no,
you've worked at a couple companies, I've worked at a ton of companies. Nobody ever goes to decision-making school, or how to change the company school, or how to get a procurement done, unless you're in procurement.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and also I think also, Brian, what is their real interest? And if you look today, I mean, I spoke to you about working in IT security, but today I work into commodity. That's some kind of a market. And then you've had many podcasts on the subject, and when I listen to them, I always hear the same. It's the same red line. Today for us, separating yourself from the others in a commodity market it's a very difficult thing, because to a certain extent it's a replacement market, for instance. And if you look at it, and then when we talk about the buyer, or the one that has the budget, I would say, he's never done that, right? So today I'm confronted with individuals that never have bought, because they have the incumbent today, and the only thing they do is every 3 years they sign off for an order, and then 3 years later they sign off for an order, and when they do, the vendor invites them for a nice dinner and they have a bottle of champagne, and hooray, hooray, we're gone for 3 years again. And then 10 years later, Wim pops up with his team and says, hey, I got an idea. What if you go with us? They're not interested at this point in time. Even if you say, we give you a better dinner and we give you 5 bottles of champagnes, our price is better, they're not interested. And the light went on with me when, I think a few years ago, I did a 7-figure deal at an organization, a global organization based in the UK. And you know what? It was not about our product. It was not about, are we better than the incumbent or not? It was about really, and in most cases, what's in it for me, right? And what was in for that individual at that case actually had nothing to do with our product. It had to do with the fact that he could prove himself that by adopting and changing the current solution by ours would give him such a return that it probably delivers him a promotion, right? And that had to do with the fact that actually he would save more on his printing cost, and he could remove hundreds of big printers in his organization, and the return on his investment would be less than a year probably. He made a promotion, he moved on, happy life, happy wife, and all that sort of things. So that learned me that sometimes how these people think is different than how you look at them. And it's very important that salespeople and also the ones in my organization in the commodity market in general understand that, because it is a tough job. As I said, if you have an innovative solution, they might be interested because everyone talks about it. It's on television. You need to buy it. You need to have that. If you don't have that, you're not part of the gang. That's innovation. That's the new technologies around AI and whatsoever. Commodity is a different beast, and I respect and admire the salespeople that they have to do that, because it's a very tough job.
Well, it may seem surprising, but even in the non-commodity market, people buy for their own personal win.
Of course.
And
Of course.
a lot of reps, they're blind to that. They're always looking at what's in the company's best interests. And the product, let's face it, in most cases, beyond the users, nobody knows or cares. That they needed a thing to do something, solve a problem, get a opportunity, and that's all they care about. But like what you just described is usually why people are surprised if they either win or lose, because you weren't selling the product, you were selling what it does for this person's career.
Yes, absolutely. And to that respect, you're absolutely right, Brian. And the thing with commodity has to do with change. People and change, that's something.
Yeah.
I rarely come across people that say, I want to change, I want to change. It's, if things go well, why would you change? If you work and you have a solution in place and your 10,000 employees are happy, why would you change, right? And it reminds me of a pharmaceutical company. Sometimes you learn from your mistakes, most of the time you do. And there was a very long sales cycle, as in 2.5 years or something. And we did it all the steps, everything, the right decision maker in place, the guy that could sign off on it, but he didn't want to sign off. And that dragged on, and I couldn't get hold of the why. Why is he not doing that? Until I took him out for dinner, I said, why? Just talk to me. We're doing this for 2 years. Just here it is. He said, no, I can't. I said, why can't you? Well, I'm going to retire. Oh, yeah. And if I do that now, Wim, and I retire and, it goes belly up and they fire me, my wife's not going to be happy, and that's going to have an impact on my future life. I'm still young, and I need retirement money. I don't want that. Okay, but I've given you the confidence, everything. No, you've given me the confidence, but I'm not going to take the risk. So that learned me that getting people to change in a commodity market is a hell of a job. And it also learned me that applying the traditional practices you have in a typical sales environment, you need to challenge them. As a salesperson, you need to stretch yourself continuously in order to ask probably questions where you're more uncomfortable with than in any other place, right? I hope that makes sense, because in IT security, if it's new, probably the people in IT security will know about it, that's the thing they need to adopt to address the next wave of vulnerabilities or whatsoever. In commodity, it's more like, I'm going to replace, my 8K television with a new 8K television. So the one from Philips did it right, or, so why should I take one from Samsung, right? So let me go back to the one from Philips. So if you ask and stretch yourself and dare to ask, very interesting questions, so have a genuine interest with regards to the buyer you're talking to, you might eventually be more successful and shorten the sales cycle. That's what I've learned personally, right?
Yeah, and I have as well, because if you ever read Crossing the Chasm,
Yes.
where you see the bell curve of early adopters, I've used that book to kind of, instead of like disc, label people. It's like, is this an early adopter or are they a laggard? Where you talk, that guy who's retiring, he's a laggard.
He's a laggard, yes.
I don't know if there's anything that's going to get him to change, because all they see is risk. They don't see no upside.
No.
So, and a lot of times I coach people to, if you're selling an early adopter product, and you're talking to a laggard, go find an early adopter because
Yeah.
you'll bang your head against the wall with the
Yeah.
laggard.
Which is very rare in my market today, to be honest, because there are no early adopters.
No,
Because
it's a mature market.
there aren't. I mean, you're using the solution. If I talk PDF to you, you're using it on your desktop, on your laptop. So it already has adopted. So the only way we can win, and obviously, you know, that there is the price component with regards to commodity, which you have to overcome. Because it has to do with, oh, I'm going to replace it if you can do it cheaper than the other one. All right, that question again. So in order to stay away from the price trap you would fall into a commodity market, the only thing we can do, because the product is the product, right? Your 8K television is your 8K television. So the only thing you can do is adding as much value as you can. And since the product does what it does, is very valuable, the only remaining part is two things. It's your organization and the people that support your customer with regards to adopting the product and rolling out the product. One, and secondly, it's you. It's yourself. It's your relationship. The way you take the buyer or the DMU's hand and help them in all the aspects, trying to understand what is really key, and detect if there's a certain pain. And believe me, there's always a pain, always, whether it's commodity or innovation solution, there always is a pain. If you can activate that pain, you will be successful. And that requires exceptional salespeople, really exceptional salespeople, because I still believe it's a much harder sell, right? And not a lot of people understand that it's not about the product, it's about you. Because in the end, it's you who have to help and take care that the buyer buys, right? So what we try to do in our markets today is let the buyer buy, as opposed to let the salesperson sell. And if you have that in mind, as a sales individual, it helps you to be successful.
Yeah. And how do you get that latent pain activated? What's your secret sauce to make that happen?
I think it has complex ingredients, to be honest.
Secret ingredients.
If I would have secret ingredients, if that would exist, I think there would be a beautiful world. Every situation is different, but I think in general, and that might answer your question. In general, it has to do with trying to understand the underlying reasons outside of the product itself, as opposed to keep on talking about those products. And that's talking about my position. If deals get stuck, it means that they haven't found the famous secret sauce. To be honest, they haven't found a way to detect that latent pain and activate it. They're still stuck into the but we do this better, or our price is much better, so it's 50% cheaper. So why don't you buy them, right? So that's where I see typically that deals get stuck. The moment that individuals step away from that and dig deeper into the whys and even see my professional understanding of the needs of a particular buyer. I mean, it could be that he wants to do that to get that promotion and to go with his family to the Bahamas or something like that, because he will be rewarded as the one in the organization that has the most beautiful project in replacing a particular solution, and that delivers a trip to the Bahamas. Then saying to that individual, and that's what I mean with stretching yourself a little bit, if I help you to go with your family to the Bahamas because your project internally will be successful, would that move us to the next step? Oh yeah, that would be. So, but how many people dare to ask that question? You have to have, I think, a certain personality to do that.
Yeah, or like your Christmas tree analogy, you need to see what's in the grocery cart, see what kind of car they drove up, see where they are in life. The widow wants a different Christmas tree than the family of 7, right?
Absolutely.
And you're selling change. You're not selling e-signature or a commodity. You're selling change.
Yes.
Because change can either give them control or take control away from them.
Yes.
In the
And change,
promotions,
yeah, and apart from, control, you need to make them aware that change actually can put them in a better position than they were before.
yes.
And to that respect, it's I always say, in my position today and managing the team, it's about a vision, it's about a mission. And to that respect, when we talk about change in our environment, it is no different. If you take your buyer and you deliver a vision that changing things will put them in a better position, and you make him believe in that vision, in that mission, that's where you're going to be successful.
Yeah. And how easy is it to find reps who can do that?
It is not easy, right? It is
It's
not
not
easy,
easy.
but there's hope. I think, and that's a very good question. There is a market of reps outside there, or account manager, if you wish. And when we hire, and I'm involved in the hiring process intensively, obviously. Brian, I don't look at the grades you've done or how well you've done in school or all the sort of things, leave that to HR. If that's needed, that's fine. But I have an interview, and if they can pull interest out of me, if they can make me laugh, if we have
Report. Yeah.
interesting conversation, if they ask very intelligent questions that challenge me, then I believe I have the right individual. And then, we can bolster that a little bit more in the future. But those for me are the most interesting individuals. Can you challenge me? Can you ask me interesting questions? Because I know that if they can do that with me, then they will be in that position I was talking to you about earlier. Then they will do the same thing when they're in whatever sales cycle they are, and they will be successful. And it has turned out to be like that currently. So, but it's hard to find them. You're absolutely right. It's hard to find because, most people have a sales career. And then I think that's a broader mission of mine. I think, the sales market as such and the trainings around that are still too much about a fixed process, do this, then that, and then, you will be successful. You need to pick up things from that, but 90% is yourself, is your personality, and how you treat and deal with people in general, I guess.
Yeah, that's a great point. Hey, Wim, I really appreciate your time today. Where can people go to connect and follow you?
I'm on LinkedIn. My name is Wim Temmerman, and I work for a company called Foxit Software. So connect with me if you have any needs around PDF or e-sign solutions.